Have you ever had a game so influential in your life that it made you want to be a better person or change your personality from what it once was? If you're like me, the answer is yes, although it may be a different game from what I've chosen as the topic of this video. Final Fantasy X, the 10th game in an extremely popular franchise that you've probably heard of before. Final Fantasy X is the 10th game in the series, and the first game to feature voice acting, as well as being the first game on consoles to only use one disc. I'll go over the main parts of the game in this video, and I'll include timestamps in the descriptions so you can find the bits that you're looking for. Anyways, my name is Jotep, Jojo, whatever you want to call me, and this is why I love Final Fantasy X. Let's start with the basics. Gameplay. For the most part, gameplay is like your standard Final Fantasy game. Turn-based combat, different characters for different situations, so on and so forth. I'll go over the main aspects of gameplay now. The main gameplay mechanic that I'm going to be focusing on is combat, as that's likely what people would be looking for when looking at this section. There are different types of weapons you'll want to use when combating certain monsters. For example, when fighting an ice monster, ice weapons will heal it, while fire weapons deal massive amounts of damage. Weapons are interchangeable during combat, and your mages can cast spells of the required elements. These spells can be upgraded using the sphere grid, which I'll go into later in this section. Overdrives are supercharged attacks that you can use once your overdrive meter is at max capacity. The game will give you a small minigame, and when done perfectly, will deal a massive amount of damage on your target. Do it poorly, however, and it will deal as much damage as a basic attack. Different characters are more effective against different types of monsters. When fighting elementals, monsters with certain elements to them, you'll want to use your black mage, Lulu, as she will be most effective due to the fact that she doesn't need to change weapons. When fighting lighter grounded monsters, you want to use the game's protagonist, Tidus. He's one of the fastest characters, and his attacks will gradually become more powerful as the game progresses, seeing as he is the main character. Armored enemies can only be damaged by the characters Auron and Kimahri. The game will remind you of this fact should you attempt to attack them with any other characters. The only exception is if the weapon your character is using has the piercing perk, in which case they too can damage the armored beasts. Flying enemies are best combated using the character Waka. His attacks have the most range out of any character in the game, and seeing as he is the first to join your party, his attacks will become stronger over time. Mechanical enemies are best fought with the character Riku, as her steel move is capable of dismantling them in one turn. When fighting massive enemies, you want to use your summons, which can only be called forth by the character Yuna. Once the spirit is summoned, you'll have total control over their moves, and they have more health at the start than most of your character. Now let's move on. The next part of this section is going to be dedicated to the sphere grid. Using the sphere grid is quite simple at first, so let's begin with the basics. After winning a battle, you'll likely get spheres for your trouble. These spheres are used in the game's leveling up system, and different spheres fill different nodes. Now let's go over what each sphere does. Power spheres activate strength, defense, and health nodes, while mana spheres activate magic power, magic resistance, and the amount of magic you have, so MP nodes. Speed spheres activate agility, accuracy, and evasion nodes, while ability spheres activate skill, special, and magic nodes. Fortune spheres activate luck nodes. Fortune spheres are the rarest type of red sphere. Key spheres, which unlock different nodes, come in 4 levels and can open a locked node of the corresponding level. For example, a level 4 key sphere can only open level 4. An unlocked node is unlocked for all characters regardless of who opened it. Now that we've gone over the basics of combat and how to upgrade your characters, I think it's time we've gotten into the part that most people dread about this game. The part that deserves its own section. That's right. You either love it or you hate it. It's Blitzball. Now, if you've played this game before, you know exactly what I mean when I say you either love it or you hate it. Because you either are really good at it or you really suck at it. And there's no middle ground. So, about Blitzball. Blitzball incorporates elements of soccer, football, and water polo, and is played underwater in a giant sphere pool. On the lower right side of the screen, you'll see a map of the sphere pool, the game time, and the score, from top to bottom. On the map, the players are represented by green triangles. The opposition's players are represented by red triangles. The player who currently has possession of the ball has a yellow circle around him or her. In the lower left corner is commentary about what happened in the game. When one of your team's players has possession of the ball, pushing the square button will bring up the action menu. If your player is close to one or more members of the opposite team, bringing up the action menu will initiate an encounter, and then the encounter is square off against enemy players. However, if no players of the opposite team are near you, bringing up the action menu will yield 3 choices: pass, shoot, and dribble. Pass means that you may pass the ball to another team member. Shoot the ball means you will attempt to kick the ball to score a goal. Dribble essentially discloses the action menu, allowing you to continue swimming through the sphere pool until you open up the action menu again, or are intercepted by enemy players and forced into an encounter. An encounter occurs when the player who has possession of the ball swims too close to enemy team members. When that happens, the ball handler will square off against one or more players of the opposite team, and you'll have 2 options: no break and break 2. Before you make a choice, examine the statistics in the top right corner. The topmost set of stats is the ball carrier, and the statistics below that are the enemy players who surround the ball carrier. Ignore HP for a moment and look at EN, AT, PA, and BL. EN, endurance, is compared to AT, attack, in an encounter, and PA, pass, is similarly compared to BL, block. A good rule of thumb is that if your pass is higher than the enemy's block, choose no break, and if your endurance is higher than the enemy's attack, choose break 2. If you're in an encounter with more than one enemy player, you can choose a combination of these. Selecting no break brings up the action commands menu and gives you the choice to either pass the ball or make a shot. Because you're currently surrounded by enemy players, however, any passes or shots that you make will be intercepted by them. If your pass or shoot statistic is higher than their block statistic, they'll merely deflect the ball, unable to gain possession of it. If your pass or shoot is lower than their block, on the other hand, they'll catch the ball. Selecting Break 2 will bring up the Actions command menu, giving you the choice to not only pass or shoot the ball, but also to dribble. After you've made your choice, one or more enemy players, however many you choose to break to, will tackle you in an attempt to wrest the ball from your hands. If your endurance statistic is greater than the sum of their attack statistic, you'll retain possession of the ball, then perform the pass, shot, or dribbling action you selected at first. There are certain special attacks in this minigame that you can learn or characters come with. Poison. When a character's HP rapidly depletes when he has the ball. Also, a character inflicted with poison does not recover HP even after he gets rid of the ball. Attacks also get disabled when the player is poisoned. Sleep. The affected character will be inactive for a while. You can wake him up by throwing the ball to him. Wither. When inflicted with Wither, any of your stats can get halved. Now that we've got basic gameplay out of the way, let's get into the main reason I love this game. The story. Without this game's story, I probably never would have made this video. Our story begins with a boy named Titus playing a massive game of Blitzball, like the game I mentioned before. Everything seems to be going well up until... As you just witnessed, his entire city got destroyed by a giant monster, and that giant monster is known as Sin. Sin is responsible for sending Titus to the new place called Spira. Now, Spira isn't all that different from the city he lived in named Zanarkand, besides the fact that they didn't use machines as it was against their religion. Where have I heard that before? Anyways, as it was against their religion, the only thing that they had close to being machines was the sphere pool, which they used to play blitzball. However, the giant monster named Sin came from Spira, and after it attacked Zanarkand, it sent Titus there. Once he woke up, after being sent from Zanarkand to Spira, he woke up on the coast of an island called Besaid. When there, he found himself sitting in a giant pool of water. After waking up, he turns around and notices some people playing Blitzball, a game he had grown to love since his childhood. Now, this world of Spira was almost identical to Zanarkand, and in fact, it has a city named Zanarkand that was destroyed 1,000 years ago. And so Tidus comes up with the theory that he was transported through time, and the only way to get back to Zanarkand was to find Sin and get him to send him back. And so our journey begins. However, before he can actually start journeying out to find Sin, he meets a group of guardians, one of which is Waka, which you can see on screen right now. That guy's name is Waka. And basically, Waka introduces him to the new summoner named Yuna. Now, Yuna is a girl who is basically the main love interest for the game. And essentially, her job is to defeat Sin forever. Now, Tidus, their goals kind of conflict, because Tidus thinks that he needs to find Sin in order to get sent home. And so, they all start journeying together. And once they find Sin, you encounter Sin a few times throughout the game, and you have a boss fight with him almost every time. And that's basically the basic premise of the game. So, you get into the meat and potatoes later down the line, and that's when the story starts getting really good. Like, really, really good. But I don't want to spoil anything, because there's a lot of plot twists in this game. So I'm pretty much going to leave it off at that. And, yeah. Oh, if you guys want a video that contains spoilers on my thoughts on the story, let me know in the comments, because that's a video I really want to make. But I don't know if you guys want it spoiled or not, so I'll probably put a spoiler warning in the title. But other than that, that's just about the end of this video. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and go through this game with me. And this video was really fun to make, actually. The whole editing process was actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to let me know in the comments. I'll try to make more videos like this on games that I've enjoyed before. And if you have any suggestions, make sure to let me know in the comments, because I might have played some of those games and I might be able to give you my thoughts on them. So yeah, this has been Jotep, and I am signing off. I'll see you all next time.